Dirty Scrap Podcast.
Perfect.
Okay, so Bea, thank you so much for being here with us in Dirty Scrap. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. At the end of the day, we are using this platform to let the people understand better what is going on out there in the aluminum industry, because right now, economy is a little bit crazy, up and down, right? So how you been?
Good. It's well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of the show.
Oh, thank you.
It's been crazy. I don't think anybody expected the market to be this way. I think January versus today is very different.
It
We
is.
went from what I would consider a seller's market to a buyer's market. And there's still a lot of uncertainty. I mean, everything that comes out of DC can take the market one way or the other. So
Right.
buckle up.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think we are seeing something like is very unique in the industry, right? Not just in the industry, in the global economy. So, but I want to go deeper in that topic later today. Uh, I've been searching for your journey in the industry, and it's quite amazing. I know that you started like a lawyer, if I am not wrong, right?
Yes.
But then you have your MBA on business, and then you just jump into a big company like Novelis. So if you can teach me more a little bit about you, because at the end of the day, also what I want with this platform is get to know the people more than, the professional and taking approaches to the industry and the technology and the trends. It's more important for me to understand the people, and then we will dig into all these technical topics. So tell me
Sure.
about your journey, because also your Spanish is perfect. I know you've been in Spain for quite a long time working on your studies, right? So,
Yeah, I'm actually originally from Spain.
oh, really?
Yeah. So my father was a diplomat, so we traveled quite a bit growing up. And then I was a professional soccer player in Spain. This is a long time ago. I don't know if I should stop saying this, but I was. And I was a tax lawyer. And what ended up happening is tax law was not my thing. So I decided to take that adventure and go get an MBA in the US.
Right.
And then I worked a little bit for a strategy consulting company, McKinsey. And then the whole concept of sustainability and recycling that Novelis had really attracted me. And I jumped into Novelis a little bit over 14 years ago. So I started with the strategy, just the right transition from consulting. And then I was on the sales side, selling our specialties products.
Right.
I was a plant manager at one of our recycling facilities. And then I am now buying and planning the metal units for our plants. So big transitions. I think the takeaway from all these functional movements is you become more and more humble because you see every function is extremely hard.
Right.
So you're much more appreciative when you end up on the other side.
Right. Right. Okay, but you're from Spain. Which part of Spain?
Madrid.
Oh, Madrid. Oh, amazing city. I loved it. How do you change being a professional soccer player to become a lawyer? Because I can see that you're a very strong woman. And if you go out in the industry, we can tell. And you are pushing very hard to have more women into the industry. So how that, let's say, professional soccer player approach build you up in order to make you where you are right now?
Yeah, I was very passionate about soccer as a kid, so I just grew up and kept getting into better and better clubs, and it doesn't pay in Spain at all.
No?
Now it's starting to pay a little bit more, but you have to work on the side. So um, tax law, I did business and law at the same time, so tax law made sense. And I think to your point on growing confidence and growing strength, sports, I think, especially for women, but for all kids, just build that confidence, build that teamwork, build that collaboration, that are skills that are so needed when you go into the workforce. But being kind of maybe on the startup side of women's soccer, you had to put up with a lot of backlash and a lot of, you should be in the kitchen.
Right.
You guys don't know how to play soccer. What are you doing? And you just build a lot of thick skin, which I think helps when you're going into manufacturing, where it's like, what are you doing? Or
Right.
you go to a meeting and you're the boss and they start talking to your direct report who's a guy, and you're like, really? Like, come on, we're better than
Really?
this.
Is it still
Yeah, yeah,
happening?
it
No
still
way.
happens. Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that is crazy. I mean, I can imagine that this should have happened, I mean, long time ago, but still, and even in the industry that is growing a lot and we are seeing more women involved, how was for you jumping to a company like Novelis, being a woman, was easy or wasn't that easy? And then start, like growing up professionally as a woman in a company like that was easy or not too much because you already have this crocodile skin, right?
Yeah.
So you're tough. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you can be tough, but sometimes reality just slaps you on the face and right? So
Yeah.
how was it?
I think for the most part it was easy. You always had your instances. I think I went into the headquarters, the office, the main office, which there's a lot more embracing of diversity, I would
Okay,
say.
cool.
When I started, I did corporate strategy the first couple of years, then I went to North America strategy. So I was visiting all the plants, and that's a different story. Like when I went to the plants, and I would see not only the conditions, I mean, sometimes there wasn't a women's bathroom. You had to walk. It's just silly things, but it makes a big difference because one
Right,
thing is you don't feel seen and you don't feel like you're welcomed. So it's just putting a women's bathroom where the plant is so you don't have to walk a mile to the other bathroom, or having a mother's room, or having an area where, you know, women can eat, because sometimes they were at, when I was the plant manager at Greensboro, they didn't want to eat in the cafeteria because it was too gross. Things like this, that is just, you need to, as an outsider coming into the plants, you need to tell them, this is not okay. We're going to make it better, and let's get the voice out there and make it better. And that was the main reason why I started Women in Novelis, to make
right.
sure that the plant diversity was something that was being embraced.
How easy is to make those changes,
Not very easy. No,
right?
I was very fortunate that I had we had leadership at Novelis that were believers. John Gardner, Marco Palmieri, Tom
Right,
Boney, few
right,
people that really pushed this and made big changes, not only putting bathrooms, but actually changing the maternity and paternity policy from 6 weeks to 14 for women, from 2 to 8 for men. So without that leadership that really supports you, these changes are very hard to make.
What are the biggest challenges that you need or you're facing or you faced in that process?
The biggest challenges is one, you need men to be allies. If you don't do the extra effort to bring the men in, then the men
Right,
will be like, when's the men's day? Where's the men's vending machine? Like, then they become very sarcastic with your efforts. And when you bring them in, especially if they have daughters or
right.
they have wives that are in the workforce and are facing these things, then it becomes their cause too, which is huge. So I think that's one, bringing the men in. And then the second one, I think, goes back to having leadership support. If
Right.
leadership is not a true believer, it's not going to happen.
Right. So what you're saying is instead of start fighting against the system, you need to have some allies. So at the end of the day, you have some complements that will allow you to have more understanding on those changes. And with the right leadership, and if you have these allies, you will success, right? Success, right? At the end of the day, and this is one of the key points that I want to point it out today, because what I am seeing sometimes out in the industry when women wants to participate more is fighting against men instead of having this coalition, right?
That's right. That's right. I think we started with, this is a women's topic. We only invited women. We strategize. We put the actions and all that. And then when we went to implement, it was much harder. When we started inviting the men in and they were their allies, then the execution of all this became so much easier. And then, for a guy to convince a guy, it's just so much easier than, a woman. You guys are selfish. You're only looking at yourself.
Right.
It's like, oh, we're leveling the playing field.
Right, got it. What is this about women in Novelis? Let's jump into that topic. And I think it's fascinating because doing something like that in a big company like Novelis will obviously have some echo on other smaller companies. So I think it's great. What is this approach? And I think you're the leader of this approach, right? What is not just this approach, what is the goal that you have in mind?
Yeah, so we started this this was probably 12 years ago. And it's basically it ends up being a grassroots ERG, employee resource group,
Hmm.
where you're given a budget, you're given support to create the culture in the company that you want to see, or that you want. The way I think about it is always that I would want my kids to work for this company
Right.
because the culture is so great. And the goal was really to, again, kind of level the playing field, make sure that women, we would grow the population of women. We started at 10% not participation, but 10% representation at Novelis, which is a huge company.
Hmm.
So it was the growth and then the ability to promote. And this was through having the right mentors, getting the right connections, signing up for the right stretch projects. So all this, I think there's the men do it very well, the networking, I'll go play golf, I'll do this, I'll go get a drink. Women are a little bit more shy, I feel. And
Right.
every time I see a woman put something on my calendar and they're like, I don't want to bug you. And I'm like, do it. Like, don't think about it. Like, I see men do it all the time and they don't. I apologize about it. Let's do it. So, getting them that confidence and that support and that guidance and that mentorship so that they can take that next step with better guidance.
Right.
And then retention. How do we retain women so that either the glass ceiling, either kids and work life balance, like all these different things, all these different reasons for women to exit the workforce or exit a company. How do we get ahead of that?
Right, right. How important is company culture for the companies to grow in the right direction? And also, how do you use the company culture in order to, as you just said, retain people? Because one of the issues that I'm seeing in the industry, mostly in the United States in the last 2 or 3 years, is this industry is not capable of retaining people as longer as they want. So growing is not easy because you need to change. If you are changing people every couple of months, so you will have to obviously do the training again, so the process will stop or slowing down a little bit. How important it is, and how do you promote the people to stay in your company for a long time?
Yeah, Julio, you bring a great point. I was just in Spain in July. And in Spain, this is my view, probably very stereotypical, but the view is they don't take care of their people, right? So you work, it's long hours, they don't train you. Once you start complaining, they're like, why are you complaining? I'll replace you for the next guy who will probably
Right.
be less expensive. Productivity in Spain, I think, hasn't increased at all in the last 10 years, right?
No.
And that's what happens when you replace people that don't have the know-how, that need the ramp up, and you don't take care of the people that can do a good job and entice them and all that. Your productivity suffers. And the financial cost of that is probably tenfold what it would be to give that, extra 3% or give that promotion or that training, all these
Right.
things, and have people engaged. So I think versus the US does a really good job at training people, taking care of people, doing career plans, doing development plans. I think culture is key. What I've seen lately, especially with COVID, where the market kind of turned a little bit and it was
Right.
more of the employees selecting where to go, is a lot of people shopped around and changed places. And a large percentage of that people regretted having left, right?
Right.
I think the companies, it's a tough ask because when you hire somebody 20% higher than the person you have in, I've seen companies, especially the tech companies, bring everybody's salary up, and that's phenomenal. I know not all companies
Oh.
are willing to do that, but at least continue giving not only the dollar incentive, but especially that career path, that training, that space for people to do their passion projects. I think those things are key.
Right, right. And that's the EVP, right? The employee value proposition. Because in the companies, I think we are always thinking about what else I can do for my customer instead of saying, what else I can do for my employees to keep them, happy. Because at the end of the day, if I am understanding very well what you're doing or what you're saying, is it's not about money every time. It's about my professional career, and that I can see a possibility that I can grow in this company. At the end of the day, you can sacrifice a little bit your pocket in
Yeah.
order to grow yourself, because at the end of the day, the payback will come, right?
Well, yeah.
Right. From the strategic. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna reinforce your point. I'm a big believer that if you take care of your people, your customers and suppliers will be taken care of
They will
because
feel it.
your employees will be more engaged.
Right, right. From the strategic point of view, because at the end of the day, that's your area, right? Strategy. That I think is very important. Is crazy to see some companies without the strategy, just moving forward in any direction, right? With all this volatility that we have right now in the market from the strategic point of view, having all these primary and secondary guys just moving up and down, how Novelis react to, because being a big company, everyone says, oh, it's a big company, it's easy. No, it's even more complicated because you have a lot of people under your umbrella, right? So from the strategic point of view, how are you manage everything that is happening right now, and how you prepare for the future? But because it's a lot of uncertainty out there.
Yeah, I think our key strategies are very long-term strategies. So we have a what's called 3x30, and it's really focused on being that sustainable company that's 75% recycled content. It's less than three CO2 emissions per ton. It's profitable. It has a good culture. All these different aspects of it. That's the long-term strategy.
Right.
And then the more short term is we have to navigate these tariffs. We have to navigate this uncertainty, and we'll make those small changes as is required. We have a big integrated mill coming online next year in Bay Minette. We're importing quite a bit of can coils for to make cans, so that we can very quickly switch it and domesticate that production. So it's navigating that with the tariffs and really not doing anything super drastic, because this will change again, right? So the key thing is, how do we avoid as an industry any demand destruction?
Right.
As we have these big tariffs, that's the big concern.
Right. It is very interesting what you just said, because at the end of the day, you are doing small changes, trying to adjust yourself to the tariff and all this uncertainty, but also you don't want to go too drastic because you know that it's going to back up in some point. But do you think that this old tariff, because at the end, what I understand is the tariff, what is they are looking for is to reindustrialize North America, right? But it's not easy, and it's going to take a lot of time. So from your point of view, what is that key point strategy that you need to adjust right now in order to follow up what is coming, but not to regret what you are doing right now in the future? What is it?
Yeah, I think what we're doing is we're really looking at our portfolio of products and our strategic customers and making sure we're taking care of them. And these are, products and customers that we will be tight at the hip long term. So making sure that that's protected. And then the other things are, again, small changes, but nothing too drastic.
Right. Let's talk about recycling rates. For me, when I started this podcast, I used to travel a lot because of my job, right? So I go to Europe at least twice a year with some customers. And every time I go to a different city in Europe, I try to understand the recycling rates they have. And I try to make an episode talking about, hey, they are doing this and that. But it's incredible, the recycling rate, for example, you can see in Germany, Italy, talking about, UVC. UVC is 90%, 95%. Here in the US, 45, maybe 50%, not too much. Why is that? And how is Novelis trying to, let's say, improve the recycling rates? Because we are talking about CO2 emissions and improve the recycling rates. But also we need to understand that it's not that easy just to add more post-consumer scrap into the process without the right technology and the right approach, because at the end of the day, what you want is to have more aluminum out of your scrap. So you want to have a better efficiency, but you need to merge that with technology, good practices, but also with the culture of the country. And we are not seeing that pumping up. So why do you think is that? And what are your, let's say, Novelis' strategic approach in order to increase those recycling rates?
Yeah, that's another fascinating question. I think I go back to, my experience in Spain. So in Spain, and this is pretty much all of Europe. In Spain right now, you have a green point, which is somewhere along your street, but you
Right.
usually have to walk like 4 to 5 minutes to put your recyclables in that green point and even some of your garbage, right? I I just would never see this working in the US. Like there would be boycotts, you know? So I think in Europe with legislation and people, I don't know the root cause if it's just people are just more compliant with things or less, rebellious or they understand the higher purpose more. But
Hmm.
it's a country where this legislation approach works better. And most of these countries have those deposit bills, those
Right.
EPRs, which in the US, I think, we have 10 and it's the 10 deposit bills. And the last one was passed 20 years ago. There's not going to be another deposit bill. There's too many big players that are against it. So if you look at the US, again, I think if legislation, which, I think the conversation should continue, but personally, I don't see it happening, then you go to the consumer.
Right.
How can we incentivize the consumer to put their recyclables in the right bin? I'm not even talking about the households that don't have a recycling bin in a main waste stream.
Right.
60% of the UBCs that end up at landfill are homes that have the recycling bin and they're just putting it in the wrong bin. Lack of education, whatever you want. My view, now I'm a lot more skeptical. I think it's just pure laziness, right? It's too cheap to throw away garbage in the US.
Right.
So yes, there has been educational programs that have been effective. There was one, I think, in Sarasota,
Hmm.
but it's very effective when it starts. Then, as it's not reinforced, people go back to their habits. So
Right.
I'm kind of not holding my breath on consumers changing their behavior. I think my view is how can we use technology better to recycle?
Right.
And I think that goes with for the recyclables that go in your recycling bin at the MRFs, there's still like probably a 10% misclassification. So that's something that probably can be changed very easily with the right technology. And we have a
Right.
project that we're working on that. And then the other one I'm really excited about is intercepting the mainstream garbage before landfill. So I
Ooh.
think there's like 4 or 5 pilots right now that, from what I'm hearing, are pretty successful. That you break the garbage bag, you put it in a conveyor belt. There's AI vision systems that track what are recyclables, and then you have jet nozzles that push them to the side. And the economics work where these are usually states that their landfills are almost full. So there's a good incentive from the municipality and the waste management to extend the life of the landfill. And the tipping fee versus the processing fee with these conveyor belts and the jet nozzles manage to make all this profitable, right? But you do need the municipalities and the waste management companies to promote and support this. And I think the big bottleneck right now is the municipalities.
Right. Right. This approach is very interesting. I mean, it's like having a special sorting line to sort the metal from the garbage that we don't want into the metal. I understand that. Also, landfills. I think one of the issues here in the US is flexibility. We have a lot of flexibility talking about the landfill's point of view. We don't have, like, in Spain you have, or in Europe, you have Befesa. You need to go through them, or you have to pay a lot of money if you want to go to a landfill that they doesn't exist anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
here, for me, was impressive when I had an episode with Subodh Das.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about the 90 million. I mean, I no, I think it's 90 million tons of aluminum that you can dig out of landfills here in the US. That is crazy amount of aluminum. That probably is not aluminum anymore. It's oxide, right? But I think it's because of this flexibility now. Saying that, don't you think that this approach will not keep the people laziness to do what they supposed to do? Because at the end of the day, I think we need to be more tough with the people and say, hey, you need to understand this. You need to understand that it is important for you and for your family to understand that recycling processes are important and everything starts at home. Because if we go in that direction, the direction that you just pointed out, we are not fighting against laziness, right? So let's say that we want to go in both sides. How we can do it? What can be the proposal from the government to help these homeowners to understand that they just need to use the right bin?
Yeah. It's interesting. So we're partnering with a company right now. We're doing a survey, 2,000 people,
Okay.
where we're trying to understand why they don't recycle. So maybe in the next episode, Julio, I'll let you know more factual the numbers, right? But I think just from my conversation, so this is much more subjective. There's a lack of trust,
Mm-hmm.
and people say, it's the typical conversation where I saw the truck come and the truck picked up the main waste stream of the chicken. It all goes to, why would I do the effort of separating this if then I don't believe any of it? So I think trust is a huge one. And if we could get better numbers of what's actually happening and share that more publicly, I think that would be huge. I think the second one is we did a few projects with Georgia Tech, so with college students, and we were trying to gamify recycling. So how could we make people that were recycling get points, and then you could get gift cards, things like that.
Right.
And even the students that were participating with us were like, I had no clue that if you recycle 10 UBCs, you would power a TV for an hour. So just like quantifying recycling benefits in a way where people can understand it, I think would be a lot more enticing.
Right. And the reason I am asking you this is because I know for a fact that you had this purpose in Novelis back in the days to rise the recycling rate from 33% up to 66%, something like that, if I am not wrong. So I think this approach that you already had was or is something that we can use as a key point to transform everything, right? How was that change? What did you use in order to increase that recycling rate? And how was the approach at that time?
Yeah, we went from 33, I think we're at 64 right now, recycled content. I think a lot of it was just focus, right?
Okay.
So it became a huge KPI for all of the organization, not just the ones that were touching the metal portion. We had these conversations with our customers. So with a lot of our auto customers, we have closed loop systems.
Right.
We doubled down on the metal procurement team, the support for the team, the plants. So making sure that they were taking more recycled content. We created more of the incentive to not use as much prime. So it was across the board, putting the right incentives in place and the right focus. I think what's going to be really interesting is as we go into a market 5-10 years out where the scrap is probably at a deficit to what the demand is, how will this incentivize technology, consumers to recycle, competitors, players? How will they act and what will happen? And my view is there will be a time where we're at a little bit of a deficit, and then the market will correct itself and the right initiatives will take place where everything goes back to the natural demand supply balance.
Definitely, definitely. Do you think we need to support more the recycling aluminum industry with the primary sector? Because what I am seeing is we think we are two different industries. We have the primary guys, and then we see them like, oh, they are creating CO2 emissions, and we need to reduce the energy intensive that they are using to create aluminum or to manufacture aluminum. But also we want to increase our recycling rates to the point that I don't know if we will have enough scrap to go into the 2030, 2050 goals that we have. So I really think that we need to understand that we need to merge together those industries and start to cooperating more instead of fighting against each other. How Novelis sees this approach in order to have something that allowed us to merge those industries together and have like a common goal.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's interesting because at Novelis, given we're all pure aluminum, we've always said the enemy is steel. We want to grow the market share.
Right.
And we absolutely need the primary guys to grow that. I mean, now you look at PT for packaging is not as recyclable. So aluminum would be. So I think there's a gap that we need to fill to work better as an industry.
How?
Yeah.
Tricky question, right?
Yeah, I think what's really interesting now with the tariffs is you can really see everybody has their own agenda, right? And it's really hard to speak as one industry. And I think the Aluminum
Right.
Association has a tall task to do, and they're really trying to corral and say, okay, what are the priorities for the majority of the group? How is really tough. I don't have good answers
Right.
for that.
No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's not easy to answer that. Mostly with everything that is happening with the tariff. For example, we are not in a good position with Canada, for example. I had some friends and some potential customers in Canada that they used to manufacture a lot of billets for the US market. Now, with the tariff, they are shutting down the foundries and they are just selling the scrap
Yeah.
into the US. I don't know if that is good or not. From my point of view, they are not happy. How is your relationship with Canada and all what is happening right now, and how you work in order to keep the good relationship with people like, that being affected with the tariff?
Yeah, I mean, we're very connected with Canada. We have a plant in Canada,
I know.
a Kingston plant.
Right.
We get a ton of supply, not only scrap, we have ingot, we get primary. So our approach has been really to keep Canada, the US, and Mexico as one unit. We're so intertwined that when you start creating these artificial barriers, you're just hurting everybody. Like
Right.
the auto industry, like you can't even you're gonna destroy the auto industry. So what we've been lobbying for is some, I don't know if it's preferential treatment, but some recognition of the partnership we have with Canada and Mexico and the US.
Right. Let's talk about CO2 emissions. How Novelis is projecting the CO2 emissions for the next couple of years, and what kind of technology we will see for you to implement more recycling rates? And are you guys thinking in increase the recycling rates?
Yeah, I mean, we're right now at 64. We're trying to hit 75% recycled content by 2030.
Okay.
What we're doing is really like the biggest lever there is scrap use, right? So we're really trying to build very strong relationships with our suppliers. We're continuing to talk about closed loop with all our OEMs. We're creating the approach of how can we be the customer of choice for our suppliers, which means being more flexible at our plants in terms of packaging, contamination, when we have outages or reliability issues, having that extra pad where we can store, because I know one of the biggest concerns from our suppliers is we get scrap all the time, like we can't hold it. So you guys need to always take our scrap. And then we've put scrap champions at our plants, which are the ones, scrap champions we call them. And these are the ones when the plant's rejecting something, they will come out and double check that this is right, or can we do something to continue using it, as well as being more adventurous, I'd say, or entrepreneurial in terms of what we can take and blend it better. So with the goal of how can we broaden our net of scrap intakes so that we can be more flexible. Flexibility is key here.
Do you think this flexibility will come with technology improvements as well? Because at the end of the day, if you are rejecting some scrap, it's because you understand that you don't have the proper technology to treat it in order to have more aluminum out of it. So is this coming with some new technology and new approaches, or how do you plan it to do it to have more flexibility?
Yeah, so one of the new equipment we put in our plant at Berea are robots that would pick out contamination. So we would be able to accept more contaminated UBC primarily.
Right.
And we have a few examples of those things. I think there's still another step of technology that we need to put in our plants to get there.
Right. Yes. And I don't usually talk about let's say I don't want to use this platform as a commercial platform for my equipment, but I think it is important to understand that out there is a lot of technology that you can use in order to reduce all this contamination to the point that it's almost zero, and you can get out of your scrap around 98% melting efficiencies. I think this is one of the key points here, because as it's the same thing that we want to do with the the homeowners. We want to teach them how important is, to put everything in the right bin and all these approaches. But also, I think the big companies needs to understand that there is a lot of technology that can help them to have more flexibility. Now, saying that, and to wrap up this episode, what is these trends or the new approaches that we can expect from Novelis, not just from the point of view of recycling and technology, but also to support the industry and keep growing this industry as we are seeing right now? And what are those challenges that we will see that Novelis will face, and how you will face it?
Yeah. So maybe starting with the challenges, I think the immediate challenge with tariffs is demand destruction. And hopefully we can have the right conversations with the administration and we can present the industry well so that we can avoid those. Second, to what you pointed out, Julio, is we need to be a more cohesive industry. Like for us to operate and be more efficient and really stand up for the things we want.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not be 20 things, it might be 3 that we can align on. That's what we need to do. Starting with, how do you even calculate recycled content? That's a huge one, right? And we haven't even agreed on that one. Third would be with 2 new mills coming in, how do we make sure we keep the industry competitive, we keep the scrap market competitive, and there will be ups and downs, but how do we, be disciplined players
Mm-hmm.
so that it ends up being still a very profitable and good industry for all the folks that participate in it. So I think those would be the challenges. What we should expect from Novelis, I think we're going to continue with our strategy of trying to be the leader in innovation, the pushing recycled content and pushing our sustainability agenda.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big things we're doing in the industry is developing the Vesper market. This is the upgraded Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to take that rot, there's a significant amount of volume that gets exported because we don't have the demand here and because we don't have the technology to upgrade it. And as we're putting these 2 mills in and creating that demand, how do we develop this in the next year? And this should be a win-win for all. So making sure that happens, and then continuing our approach of being that customer of choice for our suppliers, continuing to grow and strengthen those relationships.
Right. So adding better technology, adding also to each sorba this scrap that is very complicated to use or to process, and also keeping the company culture to improve you as a better choice for your customers, but also for the industry, right?
That's correct.
What do you have to say to the women that are out there and they want to get involved more and more in these recycling trends and in this industry?
I would say it's a very exciting industry. We need more women. Mentors are key. Go get a mentor. Go get a man and a woman mentor, because if not, we're only looking up for one perspective. And this is a very sustainable industry with more technology, with a lot of advancements. So it's not, I would break that maybe concept of manufacturing being old and stale. Yes, it's dirty. We can't, we have to agree with that, but it's super exciting. So come join us.
Yeah, it is what it is. The industry is what it is, right? But it's super fun. It's growing. I think it is something that we can use as an economy point of growing the country together, right? Because at the end of the day, we have the EVs, the green buildings, alternative energies that we can actually use in this industry in order to grow and show to the people that this industry is something very important for the economy. So, Bea, thank you so much for being here with us. I really appreciate it. For me, it was an amazing episode. And I think the women that are out there will see this episode and will say, damn, we can do tough. We can be tough. We can do something great in this industry, not just in this industry, in every industry. And at the end of the day, I think having women to our side make us better, always. So thank you so much for being here with us. I really appreciate it. And let's have another episode and we can talk about what is coming and all these projects that you have and how everything goes.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get you some better answers for the UBC. That's a huge priority. So would love to talk. And thank you so much for the invite.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Scrap Podcast.
Thank you.